I'm HamsterBomb.
And I'm Timothy.
And you guys are back for another Pokedex Paradox, where we basically dig through the Pokemon Pokedex entries and find some really fun stuff to science and screw up.
And we're hoping making the people of the Pokemon Company question their decisions to
I'm
make these
sure
taxes.
they are having fun with this. I mean, granted how the Pokedex is written by a bunch of 10-year-olds to begin with, who have just been sent on their way by the local professor who's too darn lazy to do his research himself.
Correct.
So, because of that, they come up with a lot of bullcrap. And today we have an interesting little conundrum. Normally, we want to choose a video just about a specific Pokemon, but this time we had a certain issue. Because, like last time, when we were trying to look up Force compared to base attack stat, this time we were trying to say, okay, can we try and calculate how fast something is based on its speed stat and what one lucky Pokedex entry tells us, right?
Right.
Because if one of them, just for example, I'm going to make this up, has, if it's convenient like last time, says that its base attack stat is 100 and it can move at 100 miles an hour, right? Then be like, awesome, now we know for every base stat point a Pokemon has, they can move a mile an hour, right? So we tried going through and calculating a few, and we ran into some problems. Because there's some odd contradictions. So instead, this time, we will be holding the grand race. We will find out who truly is the fastest of at least these three Pokemon, who tell us in their Pokedex entries speeds of how fast they really are. Because, granted, if we're looking at base stats, we all know there's clear winners because you can calculate that, right?
Right.
So to get that out of the way first, yes, we know the fastest Pokemon is Deoxy's speed form with 180 base.
We know.
Second is Ninjask. If you wanted to know the fastest non-legendary, Ninjask can actually move at 160 base speed. That's incredible. But unfortunately, I think we cannot actually safely calculate what speed to... We'll see. Let's just look at some Pokemon that we dug up,
When
and
I
we'll figure it
look
out.
at these Pokemon, I think of the Pokemon episode that they had where
There was an actual race.
Yes, where Ash was racing Ponyta.
I believe someone was running on an Electrode.
Somebody is running on an Electrode in that.
Which means that the Electrode can only move as fast as the person can run. You know,
right.
that's like the dumbest part of the whole thing. An Electrode really is incredibly fast. I think his base speed is 150. So if you really wanted to do that race properly, Electrode wins. But there's a trainer running on his back, so he's slowed down.
You need some, like, gyroscopic saddle to ride on this Electrode.
Right. That would be really cool.
A gyroscopic saddle?
Yeah, you just gave me that idea. Like, can you imagine, like, cars like that? You know, like a Jimmy Neutron thing where it just, like, rolls incredibly fast, and it's just, like, in a gyroscopic ball. I don't know, but tangents. But, so, the first ones we decided to look up, actually, all of these today, are Kanto selection.
Yes.
A little Kanto, pile up. So, actually, you can envision that racetrack setup, because we're gonna set all the pieces up. We're gonna get ready just like they did it. We're gonna have a Rapidash.
Right.
Is one of them we're gonna have.
Well, I was gonna say most people probably can imagine.
People would probably think Rapidash.
We're thinking
is going
Rapidash.
in, right?
That
Rapidash,
is.
I think Rapidash won the anime episode.
No,
thing.
there wasn't even a Rapidash, and it was.
Yeah,
just
there was.
Like
It was
Ponyta.
he had a Ponyta and it evolved into a Rapidash.
Oh, right. Okay, it evolved into a Rapidash.
And that's why he won. I think it was something like that. Whatever. Who cares?
Why didn't Ash catch on fire? So many questions.
Okay. Oh yeah. Well, we would... Okay, just to clarify, we will have a specific, special episode for Ponyta later. Ponyta has some interesting stuff that we're going to talk about another time.
Right. It's not the speed
It's not speed related. In fact, I don't even think it mentions speed.
No, it doesn't.
It's something else. So, Rapidash is the interesting one we're going to take. Another one that was in that particular race was Dodrio. Dodrio is an incredibly fast Pokemon, but... speed stat-wise, we'll get into it. So, also, its previous evolution, Doduo. Doduo also mentions how fast it's really moving. So, let's start with Doduo. Let's start with who we would expect to come in last.
Doduo to come in last, right?
You would think.
So, we have the Dex entry from Pokemon Yellow.
Okay.
One of Doduo's two heads splits to form a unique species. I don't know why.
Whoa, what? One of Doduo's two heads splits to form a unique species?
Which one of these is...
You're reading Dodrio. That's Dodrio.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We're like, okay, so okay, so for Dodrio, one of its heads splits, and that makes that's just wrong.
That's disturbing. I didn't even read that first.
Whatever.
Okay.
Anyway, now Doduo.
Duo. Okay, sorry. Okay. Doduo. I actually am using the Crystal Dex entry.
Okay, because I just checked in yellow. It said its short wings makes flying difficult. It has wings. Doduo. I didn't know that. But in the stadium in Coliseum, they fly by running on their feet. Which also made no sense.
This is like something else. This is a whole nother tangent over here.
Well, that's just a little thing, but whatever. Okay. Keep going.
Crystal.
Pokemon Crystal.
It lives on a grassy plain where it can see a long way. If it sees an enemy, it runs away at 60 miles per hour.
That's crazy fast. Like, what did cheetah's, like, max speed, like, get close to, like, 45?
It's like 45 or something like that.
Yeah, it's someone around there. But...
And Usain Bolt's, like, 35 or something like that,
God,
right?
no. He's, like 25, I think, 25, is what he hits.
Okay.
Like, if
that's still insane.
If a person could run 35, that's incredible. No, that will not happen until... I don't know.
So, Doduo, according to his Dex entry, is running at...
If we stopped here, we would be able to say that, okay, based on Doduo's base stat for speed, which, by the way, is 75, pretty close to 60 miles an hour, actually, right? Yeah. So if it was 60 and 75, we can get that ratio and multiply it out and say, okay, so... it's not a 1-to-1, it's a little less. So if you had like 100 for your base speed, it would be a little lower, somewhere around like 90, right?
Right.
But
we have to stop it.
That's incredibly fast.
We have to stop it because
it's gonna get really screwed up. So as of now, Doduo can run incredibly fast. Like, let's not even forget that 60 miles an hour on land. That's crazy.
And it can see a long way.
And let's not forget that it can see a long way. How long? Far. Now, its base stat for speed is only 75. Like, there's so many Pokemon that are faster than that. So if we took that ratio alone and multiplied it out for the other Pokemon, that's crazy. Pokemon move so fast. It's almost like Goodra logic we had last time. This is so wrong. But let's say your Doduo evolves.
Your Doduo evolves. It's going to be faster, right?
It has to be faster. Its base stat has now moved from 75 to 110 base speed. Which, by the way, is very fast in Pokemon.
Now we get to go back to that yellow Dex entry.
The one that we screwed up.
Doduo's two heads splits to form a unique species.
Whatever.
It runs close to 40 miles per hour in prairies. Note, it is still saying the same kind of land and location.
So it's not like it's running up mountains unfairly or something. This is the same terrain. This Pokemon evolved and runs slower. And what is so great about this is they repeat these numbers. This happens in multiple Dex entries. Like, I'm glancing ahead. Doduo in Fire Red says the same thing for 60. Do you see any more? Diamond Pearl says 40 miles an hour again for Dodrio. So they keep using these numbers. There's another one for Black 2, White 2. They clearly didn't care. Or they were like, yeah, that's right. What do you mean that's wrong? It loses a max speed of up to... Because here, I want to point out, Doduo always says over 60 miles an hour. And Dodrio says nearly up to or nearly 40 miles an hour.
That extra head really weighs him down.
So first of all, we already start the race. What's happening? Like, bang, they start running. Who's going what speed?
Doduo's theoretically running faster than Dodrio.
If you're looking at miles per hour, Doduo is leaving Dodrio in the dust. But if you're looking at base speed... Dodrio is leaving Doduo in the dust. Let's further complicate things.
So let's add a third Pokemon.
Another one that we found. Rapidash. Because Rapidash was in that lineup too. Rapidash is going to win.
Right. Why would you not think Rapidash?
Rapidash is freaking fast. Except for the fact that, if you go into the base stat, Rapidash is very close to Dodrio, but not quite enough. It's actually 105. It is 5 points below Dodrio in terms of base speed.
So Rapidash is actually slower base speed-wise
than Dodrio. Base speed-wise, Dodrio outspeeds it. who, by the way, lost in the race to Doduo.
Against Doduo.
Let's keep going.
So, in Ruby and Sapphire, Rapidash can usually be seen casually cantering in the fields and plains. However, when this Pokemon
Wait, hold on. Before you say the number. You just mentioned fields and plains.
Fields and plains.
Same terrain. This is fair. This is totally fair. Keep going.
However, when this Pokemon turns serious, its fiery mane flares up and blaze as it gallops its way up to 150 miles per hour.
Now, make it even better. This one comes from Silver. With incredible acceleration, it reaches its top speed of 150 miles an hour after running just 10 steps. What? No, hold on.
So now, if we're looking at the Dex entries, Rapidash is just blowing everybody out of the water.
Yeah, Dex entries, it's not a competition. Like, Doduo and Dodrio are having fun back there, and Doduo is, like, you know, running ahead of Dodrio, and this is like watching, like, two third graders have a race with each other, and Usain Bolt is next to them. And the one third grader's like, I'm a lot faster than the other third grader, but who cares? Because that other guy is blowing by the others. It's not even close.
No.
Except, for some reason, when you look at Dodrio's, they have very equivalent speed stats, which Dodrio's, like I said, was higher. Very equivalent speed stats are equating to a difference of 40 miles an hour to 150. It goes 110 miles an hour faster than the other one. What? Now, if we start trying to calculate who beats who, this seriously ends up being a rock, paper, scissors thing. It's impossible to win this.
Nobody wins!
Nobody can win this race because the universe breaks. It just tears reality a new one.
If we look at just pure base stats again, we have Doduo, 75, lowest.
Doduo
Doduo
comes in last place if it's base stats, which we would expect.
Right.
Rapidash comes next,
second, and then
just behind a near victory for Dodrio. I'm sorry. So that would actually be like a really close race to watch. I mean, you'd have like, you know, Doduo, who unfortunately like peters in the back, but like it'd be neck and neck. Towards
they're all pretty close speed stat wise.
And then just miles per hour.
Okay, let's look at the miles per hour now.
It's just completely insane.
So now we have Rapidash clearly blowing everybody out of the water in first place.
Yeah, 150 miles
an
hour.
We have Doduo in second place.
Doduo now comes in second.
And so Dodrio loses.
He's
the loser.
Let's remember who got what medal here, okay? We're gonna go bronze, silver, and gold, okay?
Okay.
So, in terms of the base stats race, Dodrio wins the gold, okay? Rapidash wins the silver. Doduo wins the bronze. We go to Dex speed of what we just read, you guys. Rapidash now wins the gold. Doduo wins the silver, and Dodrio wins the bronze.
This is why we had to make an episode with all three of these. They only make little sense when they're together.
What's so... Yeah, they
make
need
the least amount of sense when they're together.
We couldn't just do one of them for a video, because what's so strange is when you combine them all. Because Doduo now has a bronze and a silver. Dodrio has the weirdest one, has a bronze and a gold. What really happened? And Rapidash has a silver and a gold. I don't understand.
I think, honestly, if we didn't mix Dodrio into this mix, we wouldn't have this issue nearly as much.
No, if Dodrio wasn't there, because then we'd be like, okay, hold on. How come Rapidash's miles per hour is higher than its speed stat, but Doduo's miles per hour is lower than its speed stat? That would have been its own problem, but with that, though, I could have come up with a ratio to like a bell curve. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
of how it really works. But the problem is Dodrio throws the whole thing off. So if anything, Dodrio is no, I don't know. Who
would win?
Who wins this race?
Or is it Empoleon with his jet boat?
I don't know. Like, there's other great Pokemon that we might have a water race later, but there's some great...
Jet boats don't go very fast, I recently learned.
But She's talking about who?
Empoleon.
If we do Empoleon, or if it shows up in the water races later.
Water races.
Sharpedo is probably going to be in there too.
Yeah, okay, I like this idea. Let's do a water race.
Maybe eventually we'll do a water races. But still, we had to do this one because we look at these numbers and you're like, hold on. What does it mean?
It's like they were just looking at the Pokemon, throwing random numbers at it.
Is that how they come up with base stats too? Or do they just they're like, hey, this kind of balances the game?
They're probably just purely looking at numbers, and then somebody else goes and writes the dex entry.
I don't even know about that. Like, it's so busted. And then someone who writes the dex entry, like, even if it's a 10-year-old who's measuring this, even if they're making numbers up, a third grader, you know, a 10-year-old can see the difference between 40 miles an hour and 150. Right? I would assume that a third or fourth grader has been in a car that has gone 40 miles an hour, gone on the highway to go 60 miles an hour, and has never gone 150. Right? Why? Well, I am so perplexed.
I am so confused.
This just really breaks my head. But another great thing that we kind of skimmed over really quick was Rapidash's acceleration.
That it takes 10 steps and it is up to 150.
In only 10 steps, which I want to point out, it has 4 legs. Okay, so that's...
It gallops twice.
Yeah, it's 2.5 strides. And 2.5 strides of a horse. You know how short of a distance that is? Can you... Like, how far do you think a horse goes when it gallops once? It's kind of hard to say, but I'm gonna say it's not over. If it's starting from not moving to its full stride, it can't have moved more than like 20 feet, right? For all of its hooves to have touched the ground a total of 10 times, if that's all you get, right? It does that in like 10 feet. Can you imagine this thing like standing still, like eating some hay, and all of a sudden someone startles it, and boom, it's off like a bullet. But of course, if we're looking at base stats, it loses to Dodrio. Who can't get his sorry butt moving faster than 40 miles an hour.
I don't know why Dodrio is so slow.
It just...
Like, compared to Doduo, it's like they wrote Doduo's dex entry, came back 5 years later, and then wrote Dodrio's dex entry.
But the thing is, the best part, they're all Kanto. They wrote these all at the same time. Granted, they were from different generations, so when was the earliest time we saw these numbers appear? Because then maybe we can blame it on that?
Okay, well... First generation, is Yellow first generation or second generation?
That's first generation. So Dodrio has his 40 miles per hour showing up in Gen 1.
Okay, Doduo doesn't show up until
Gen 2. So Crystal is when Doduo gets his number. So maybe they realize, oh shoot, we wrote that Dodrio can only run 40 and that was a mistake. Oh, but Gen 2 also has Rapidash. Rapidash shows up in Silver, saying it runs at 150 miles an hour.
But don't you think they would have looked at Dodrio's numbers from the first gen and based it off of those?
But the thing is, the Dodrio is the outlier. That's the problem here. Because if we were looking at Doduo to Rapidash, it's still bad. Like I said, like they could have had a curve going with that. Something could have happened there with a weird ratio. But Kim, why is it so bad?
Let's also point out that during this episode, we figured out that Doduo has wings.
And Dodrio, to evolve it, one of Doduo's heads literally needs to perform mitosis. And just look, split into two. And it makes that noise. Like, you're
and
like,
the heads are the same size.
Blunk.
And the heads are the same size. They don't change size.
I know. And it's not like the third one's bigger. It just created mass. Whatever. It's all messed up. And we all know it's messed up, and it's just gonna keep being messed up if we keep reading this, but I just love the rock, paper, scissors.
Well, right, like the rock, paper, scissors, like you never win.
Nobody could win this race.
I also want to point out how apparently intelligent it is, according to Leaf Green.
Yeah.
It uses its 3 brains to execute complex plans.
While its 2 heads sleep, 1 head is said to stay awake. Actually, Doduos all say the same thing about that too. But I have another one coming up later about brain power, where they actually give me something that I can compute it to and say how smart it really is. Oh, yeah, don't get me started. We're not getting there yet.
Okay. What about leaving footprints up to 4 inches deep from Doduo? His foot is sinking into the ground every time it steps.
Well, some dinosaurs, yeah.
4 inches?
Yeah, that's not that deep. I mean, the problem is he doesn't weigh that much.
Exactly.
Wait, what's his base weight? Can we read that?
Okay. Oh,
Doduo. Doduo's weight. There it is. 86.5 pounds.
You think that's gonna make a 4-inch imprint going at 60 miles an hour?
Well, here, I don't weigh. I weigh
more than a Doduo.
I weigh way more than that. And I'm not walking on the prairie leaving 4-inch...
It doesn't say during, rainy season.
Right, it's not, in the mud. That's just messed up. Okay, we understand?
It's also telepathic!
Right. Oh, yeah, I love that. Like how it says that the 2 brains talk with telepathy.
Yes.
Even though they are physically connected, and there's much easier ways to do this.
Also, they're completely identical brains. They shouldn't need to use telepathy.
So they're like identical twins, but they need telepathy anyway. Like, what? What?
I love Dodrio. Don't get me wrong. I love Dodrio.
I really like Dodrio.
He's like one of my tops.
Yeah, I fought with Dodrio for a while in Pokemon Q Charm on my series. So I did.
I stole your Mr. Tweetums.
Yeah, I named him Mr. Tweetums. But anyway, we gotta bring this race to an end, even though we all know it can't. Because it's just illogical.
Everybody's legs just get tied up and they fall on the ground.
Yes. How about they all run so fast they cause nuclear fusion and destroys the race?
That sounds great.
All right, the end. That is the conclusion of the race. Not yes. Yeah, I hope you set your ISOs right because that's gonna be a bright explosion. Let's not go there because there are Pokemon that we are gonna go there for. Oof, I'm saving them for later. I'm saving them. Trust me. This little triathlon mixture thing was just too interesting. We had to pull this off. So. Forgive us for not having a single Pokemon who was the highlight of the episode. We were arguing, okay, who should we put on the cover? Because we gotta talk about one, right? And then use the others as backup, but the whole thing is that they rock, paper, scissors each other and nullify the whole thing. I can't justify putting anybody as the winner. So this episode is just the race.
The race.
The race. We don't know. Now, anyway... Is there anything else we need before we close this out? I feel like we've already been...
No, I think we've been ranting way too long about the
These 3 Pokemon are interesting enough, and trust me, Ponyta is super crazy when we get there too. But either way, that is all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Be sure to join us for next time for some more game science. Be sure to follow us either on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts, and we will see you all in the next episode of Pokedex Paradox.
Bye-bye!